Welcome to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and bi-weekly podcast where we play games and brew thoughtful conversations together. In case you are new, or if you need a refresher, we focus on one game a month, just really percolate and dig into it. And that way we can dig into its themes, the mechanics, and have some really good connections between what we're playing and our lived experiences, our lives. I am your host, Jenny Wyndham, and I am so excited because we are starting a brand new game. It's a new month, and joining us in the cafe today, we have the intrepid host of Tales from the Backlog, a major fan of Korean food who I am constantly looking at his Instagram posts because I see them coming through, makes me hungry every time, and defender of the laughing scene in the game of this month, Final Fantasy X, we have Dave Jackson. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm great, Jenny. Thank you for inviting me on. It's a treat to be a part of the show for a little mini extended run. I'm really excited for
Yeah.
it. And for this game, it's an honor to be the guest of choice to talk about this game.
I remember when a long time ago mentioning and talking about the fact we were doing this game, and you had said you were like, "Oh my God, Final Fantasy X. We need to talk about it." And I was like, "All right, I'm going to hold you to it." And so, yeah, you are the first guest that we're going to have for 2 months in a row, because this is also the first game we're going to be playing for 2 months in a row, which is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of an experiment because we've always done the 1 month format where it's like a very easy to remember thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes, because there are a lot of games that are longer than a month, that take a little bit more time. And so if this goes well, which I have a feeling it's going to,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be able to maybe experiment with a few other longer titles in future years.
Yeah. Well, this is your chance to test turning Geeks and Grounds just into a Final Fantasy podcast and just play through as many Final
I
Fantasy games as you want.
The secret plan is not
Yeah.
so secret. I mean, I talk a lot about how, like, I have the ultimate goal, the finalist fantasy is what I call it, of eventually playing every single mainline Final Fantasy. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I might just have to make it happen via the podcast.
Yeah, that's how we turn these like gaming goals into reality, is we're like, well, how can I turn this into content?
Yeah, and make everyone do it with me.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
need all my friends to join me in this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I'm glad we've established, where this show is going in the future. But for this month, we're going to be playing Final Fantasy X. I am so excited. I've not made it a secret. It's one of my favorite Final Fantasies, and seeing the discussion in the Discord with everyone in the community already, like, it brings warmth and joy to my heart. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
At the start of every month, though, because we now have episodes every other week, we do something a little different. So today is technically the Indiescovery episode. This is our chance to go a little bit more in depth on the releases for this month of November, talk a little bit more about them. And then we're going to be setting up what to expect for Final Fantasy X. We're going to talk a little bit about its impact, a little bit about the history, our history with the game. And for folks who have never played it before, give a little bit of context on what to expect. And for folks who have perhaps played it already multiple times, maybe a little walk down memory lane, because I think that'll be really nice.
Yeah, I'm really
Cool.
looking forward to it. Yeah, and this is a good month for indie games, so there's a lot of stuff to preview.
There is. So why don't we actually just head on to the pastry case? Again, if you want more info on everything that we talk about in the pastry case or in the podcast in general, go to geeksandgrounds.com. That's where you find the link to the Discord so you can join in on the conversations with everybody. And actually, before we talk about the indie games we're excited this month, I wanted to take this first episode with you, Dave, to get to know you a little bit, for everyone to like grab a little cup of coffee, cup of tea, and just learn more about, new friend Dave Jackson, famous podcaster, game analyst and critic, just an all-around awesome person.
Thank you.
As is tradition, and I have my tea here, I'd love to know, do you have a go-to like coffee shop or cafe order, or do you like to switch it up? And if you do have one, what is it?
I am a black coffee snob. I basically never drink coffee with anything in it. A lot of reasons for that, but I've just grown to really enjoy the taste of really good coffee. I had a really good friend, still a really good friend, but when I was living overseas, he started his own cafe. He started like roasting coffee beans in his tiny apartment in like a tiny roaster and stuff, and
Wow.
like turned it into a full cafe operation. And he made amazing coffee, and it really let me appreciate like if coffee is roasted well, if the beans are good, and then if it's prepared really well, it's just so much better than I ever thought coffee could be. So now it's just I don't need cream, I don't need sugar, I don't need anything. Just give me a black coffee, maybe an americano or a pour over if a cafe will do something like that. That's my order.
Okay, so now I have let's get in the nitty gritty because you are
Okay.
a coffee snob. I'm a little bit of a coffee snob as well. I feel like the older I've gotten, the less I want with my coffee.
Hmm.
Do you have a preferred? Do you like dark roasts, light roasts? Do you have a region that you like? I'm always very curious about that.
I don't have a region. I'm pretty open to regions, flavor profiles. Just like I like something funky. I like something with a really strong flavor to it. I
Yeah.
do like kind of like a light or medium roast. Once you get into dark roast, it just it's easier to taste a little bit more bitter and stuff like that. So yeah, plus more caffeine with the lighter roasts.
Yeah, I always forget that that actually does make a
Yeah.
difference. That's awesome. I'm also I'm usually a lighter roast drinker. I feel like a really good light roast, honestly, sometimes is like a tea. Like it's that just bright, I
Hmm.
feel like. But I have been getting into dark roasts lately. I think the weather, the winter weather is making me feel more, I don't know, the change is needed.
Hmm. Yeah.
So when you go to a coffee shop, do you ever do like pastries, anything like that? Or is it just coffee,
Yeah.
black?
I do like to try. I don't have like a favorite pastry or a favorite baked good or something. I'm pretty, again, like I'm pretty open to, different stuff. If I just see something in the case that looks good, I want to try it. Um, Man, I should have written this down. I don't know if this is a thing where you live, but around here, it's kind of like a trend to have these Yemeni coffee shops popping up all over the place.
No. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we went to one for the first time yesterday, and just had like a really nice like spiced coffee, and then just this insane, like I think it's like a Turkish area dessert, made from phyllo dough, but it's not
Mm.
baklava. It's something different. It's
Was it
something secret.
Kanefa? I
It might
think
be.
is it
Yes, yes.
Kanefa? Yeah. Oh my
Where it's like
gosh.
cut and it looks like little pieces of like little noodles almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's delicious.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was pretty crazy. Like, and I don't say that like I'm not blown away by every dessert I eat, like, but it was like
Hmm.
legitimately really, really good. And so it was just awesome to try a whole new thing. And it's just like I've just been
Hmm.
noticing all these Yemeni coffee shops around Columbus. And then I'm like, well, there's a bunch of them. Like we should go try it once.
Yeah, that's so cool. I That has not been a thing that I have seen in Portland, and now I really hope that it becomes some like maybe it's something that'll move over to the West Coast
Yeah.
and we'll eventually get something because that's amazing. That sounds delicious.
Hmm.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about Tales from the Backlog because it is a very like I think the goals we have and sort of the format they're very similar
Hmm.
and I think the people who are listening to this would very much appreciate what you do with Tales of the Backlog if
Well,
they aren't already listening.
thank you for saying that, first of all. So yeah, I do think the goals of like the way we look at games and the way we want to talk about them are really similar. Um, the difference between the shows is that you had the foresight to break games up into multiple episodes, one game a month, maybe one game every 2 months. I do a different game every week. And so that just means like we have quite long episodes. Recently, you were on the show. We did an episode about Blueprints that was almost 3 hours
Hmm.
long. And we didn't, obviously didn't talk about everything there is to talk about with that game. But I do like to keep the weekly thing. I play a lot of games. I like to talk to a lot of people. It's always me as the only permanent host. I always have a different guest. Returning guests come on, of course, but that's the general thing. And I guess the other thing, if people don't know about the show, is my show is no spoilers for about half of it every single episode, because I want
Mm.
people to be able to tune in and hear a nice conversation about a game without fear of being spoiled. And then we warn you when it's spoiler time that you can jump out, go play the game, or I don't know, jump out and just leave us hanging forever if you want. So yeah, I think that's a basic overview of the show.
Yeah, I really appreciate the curation that you do, not just with the games that you play, but the people that you bring on. Honestly, especially because I've shifted to having a little bit more of like the guest format.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely drawing inspiration from your thoughtfulness there. So if y'all haven't given a listen, please do check out the podcast. It's really, really fun. My recommendation is always find a game that you really love and start with that episode. That's always the best way to go about, I think, any game podcast, really.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't think there's an episode that's a miss in there that I've heard at least.
Well, thank you. Maybe I didn't make the misses available. That might be a possibility.
Yeah, just subtly remove everything.
Yeah.
So we're going to be playing for the next 2 months of Final Fantasy game.
Mhm.
And to close out getting to know you, I would love to know if you have a favorite Final Fantasy, or if you've, I know we're human, things change. If you have a current favorite Final Fantasy, you can clarify that it's, an evolving thing.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to just lightly dive into why. So yeah.
Well, so I have two. They are inseparable at the top. I cannot possibly rank one over the other, and I refuse to rank one over the other. But we're
Love
going to
it.
spend the next 2 months talking about one of those two games, so I can save my
Oh,
thoughts
hell
on that
yeah.
one. It's always like, depending on which one I've played more recently, or depending on the day that you catch me, my favorite is either 10 or 6. 6 was the first one that I played on the Game Boy Advance, and it really just it was the first RPG of its type that I ever played besides Pokemon. And it really just opened my eyes, probably because I was coming straight from Pokemon, to how
Oh, yeah.
RPGs like this can tell stories and have characters with different arcs and rises and falls and tragedies and triumphs, and an iconic villain, an all-time iconic Final Fantasy villain and gaming villain with
Mhm.
Kefka. And just the cast is huge. There's a ton of characters. There's it. I mean, I'm not going to spoil things about the story in that game in case people want to go play it for themselves. Maybe if someone's coming to our series new to Final Fantasy, I really think 6 is well worth your time, because it does something really, really interesting with its story that I had never seen before, and I have very rarely seen since. And that's all I'll say about it. If you know, you know.
The wild part is I don't know.
Ooh,
I
okay.
have not played 6. And again, it's on my list. It's part of my finalist fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
goals for maybe next year at this point. But I love hearing people talk about it, because there's a light, I think, that happens in people's eyes. Even if 6 isn't their favorite, everyone seems to acknowledge like the turning point it is in the franchise, the
Mm-hmm.
power that it has with the storytelling, the things that it does that were so, ahead of its time, especially narratively, it seems,
Mm-hmm.
and how that narrative has stood the test of time. So, gotta eventually make a point to get in there.
Yeah, it's also fairly late on the Super Nintendo. It was the last Final Fantasy game on the Super Nintendo, so like it feels like they squeezed every bit of art that they could out of the Super Nintendo, out of the pixel
Mm,
art. And then the soundtrack is incredible. And
yeah.
there's a lot of like customization you can do with your characters if you care about that in RPGs. So there's really a lot going for it. And it's one of those games that, like you said, even if it's not someone's favorite in the series, everyone is kind of in agreement. Like, this is an all-time great in the genre, in the series, in gaming in general. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of incredible. Um, I'm amazed that I haven't been spoiled as to what has happened, but I still know like Terra, I know Kefka.
Hmm.
I believe that's the Final Fantasy with the opera scene. I
It
don't know
is.
what the
Yes.
scene is, but I know there's an opera scene.
Hmm.
And there are these sort of like they're cultural touch points at this point. If you are an RPG fan, if you're a gaming like fan, that you eventually will hear about with this game, especially, which is incredible. It shows the power of that game. I'm curious if you happen to know, for folks who are hearing this and now interested and thinking, I want to give Final Fantasy VI a try while also playing Final Fantasy X, maybe, or right
Let's
after.
do it. Yeah, just go nuts.
Do you think, like, I think they have versions on Steam now. The Game Boy Advance has a version. If you have a Super Nintendo, you could always go back and play it on Nintendo. Do you have like a favorite place to point people to if they had the availability, of the console? Is there a favorite place to play it?
So if we're not taking availability into consideration, I think the Super Nintendo is the best version of the game, followed by the Game Boy Advance. I'm a pixel remaster hater. I've never played any of them. It is purely because I don't like the way they look. I think that the pixel art, especially from 4, 5, and 6 on the Super Nintendo, did not need to be messed with, and I don't like what they did with it in the pixel remasters. So availability, though, like if you have a Switch and that's your console, then you can buy it there. That's how you can play it. I mean, it's not reasonable to ask someone to go buy the cart for Super Nintendo anymore. And they didn't make it available. I think they made it available on like the Wii eShops and stuff like that, but that's long past now at this point.
Yeah.
So long answer short, I think the Super Nintendo is the best. I think the Game Boy Advance version is good, but the music compression, the soundtrack's really important to me, and it's not a deal breaker, but it is a thing. And then the pixel remasters are the most available, but I don't like them because I'm a hater.
You know what? Everyone needs something to be a little bit of a hater about, and I think that's a totally fine thing to be a hater
Final
about.
Fantasy fans famously never haters about anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're the first I've ever heard be negative
about anything in the series. Yeah.
About anything. Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, because like for folks who are listening, I know my brother has our Super Nintendo, so I don't know if he somehow got access to the game, but since I pretty much only use the Switch and my Steam Deck to play games for fun at this point, I'm a pixel remaster person, simply because of that accessibility, which it all, like, what is it? It's 1 through 6 all in one cartridge. It honestly is a great way to pick it up if you're interested in Final Fantasy and like are inspired to play more after playing Final Fantasy X this month and next month. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for letting us take a little bit of time to get to know you. The other bit of housekeeping I wanted to get to before we talk about stuff we're excited about is that game submissions for 2026 Geeks and Grounds titles are opening today. If you are listening to the podcast, that means the form is live. It is available, and you can start nominating games that you would like to have played next year. Every year we play usually 12 games. This year I think we played a little bit more than 12 because we had a few one-shots sprinkled in there, even though we have one game taking 2 months. And about half of the games we play are nominated by you, the listeners, the community of Geeks and Grounds. So in the newsletter on geeksandgrounds.com or in the Discord, you can go to one of or all of 3 of those places to find the form to nominate up to 3 games for consideration, because I know y'all, and if I just let you nominate willy-nilly, we're going to have way too many nominations to vote on. And then there's a FAQ on the form that goes into some more details about things to consider when nominating games to help you maybe narrow down your picks. And after nominations are done on November 17th, we will start voting for those games using ranked choice voting on November 18th. So very excited. I cannot wait. You all always nominate the most interesting games that often I haven't heard of and are really excited to learn more about. So really excited for y'all to do that. Do you have nominations in mind already, Dave, or are you going through your head?
I was just going to say, like, as a fairly active member in the Geeks and Grounds community, I had fun nominating games last year, and I can't remember. I think I nominated FF10. It might have already been in your plans, but I'm pretty sure I nominated it just as like, hey, I know that Jenny wants this to happen. Let's give an extra vote in there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and I think a lot of people upvoted it as well, because we originally, this year I am doing something different where I have the form because it's just going to help keep things a little bit more organized.
Hmm.
But last year in the Discord for folks, we had like a channel for it. People would nominate games and then you could like upvote them if you wanted to like kind of just add to that. And I think that one had also the most upvotes just out of all the games nominated. So definitely you
Hmm.
started a nice, like, what is it, the rolling hill, a
Yeah.
rolling ball down the hill kind
Yep.
of snowball moment.
Yeah, love it. I will think of some ideas. I got some stuff that I think would be perfect for this format for sure.
Yeah, it's really fun too, because on Blue Sky and on Instagram, folks will send me Steam pages or they'll tag me and they'll just be like, this looks like a Geeks and Grounds potential
Uh-huh.
eyes. And I'm like, maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is your chance to guide what we play as a community. And it's always really exciting. I love this is one of my favorite times of year, is just this chance to see what everyone's excited about.
It's exciting. Building out the podcast schedule is a lot of fun. For
Yeah.
people who don't do podcasts, this is one of the most fun things I have is planning. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
I'm
my
I'm
gosh,
jealous
yeah.
of this vote and time of excitement for you.
Thank you. I know it's just like it's a great time. So like it's like people are excited because it's the holidays and there's like, Christmas and Thanksgiving and all sorts of things coming up. And I'm like, no, it's voting season for Geeks and
Yep.
Grounds. That's my
Ranked choice
holiday.
voting, by the way it should be. So good job.
Yes, exactly. We model what we want to see out there in the world.
Hmm.
And if you want to learn about ranked choice voting, there is a link in the FAQ. If you're like, what is this system? Your mind is about to be blown.
Hmm.
It is great. So, moving into stuff we're excited about, I would love to let you lead and just talk about what maybe you've been playing, reading, watching, just getting into this week outside of the realm of Final Fantasy.
Right. So outside of FF10, um, well, I'm always playing a lot of games. So I don't want to just go on a big thing where it's like, a couple minutes on each game. So the games I'm playing briefly, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the first game, Ghost of Yote, Pokemon Legends Z to A, don't know
Mm.
how to say it, and Madden
Za.
2005. Yeah, Pokemon Legends ZA and Madden 2005. So I will
Nice.
actually ask you, are there any of those that you're like particularly curious about instead of me just rambling for the next 10 minutes?
I'm really personally curious about Pokemon as someone who has played every installment, at least started every installment of Pokemon, but this is
Hmm.
the first one since Red and Blue that I have not picked up at launch and I have not yet played at all. And I'm very curious to see how you're feeling as you've gotten into this installment.
Yeah, so I'm a longtime Pokemon fan also. I started in 1998 with Red, and my brother got Blue. And I've played most of them all the way. I skipped a couple on the DS. I think that was the DS and 3DS. And actually, the one that I skipped, X and Y, is the one that this game is a follow up to. So
Hmm.
generally, I think it's a pretty neat game. It's neat to see Game Freak experiment, especially with this Legends series. I don't love it, and I think the more that I play of it, the more I feel dissatisfied with what it actually is. And I think I had the same kind of feeling about Scarlet and Violet. I enjoyed
Mm,
those because I like Pokemon, and you can give me any Pokemon game and I will enjoy catching and battling and doing the Pokemon, getting the gym badges. I'll enjoy that because I've been
right.
doing it forever. It's comfort food for me. I like it. Um, and so like that stuff in Legends, catching, battling, I like it. Um, I generally think that the Pokemon series has really struggled to get into 3D. Um, and it's especially hard, I think, for Pokemon because pixel art games, which they were for a long, long time, pixel art games with
Hmm.
random encounters and stuff like that, there's an abstraction, right? Like your imagination can be like, I'm in this forest and I'm getting attacked every 5 seconds. There's a lot of life in this forest. It's a dangerous, untamed place and stuff like that. And I think
Mm,
Pokemon, more than any other series, has really struggled to maintain those feelings of living worlds and things like that when they start to do it in big 3D and everything's out there for you to see. And you look around and you're like, well, everyone's just kind of standing there. Like, we're in this city and nobody's moving. Like, nobody does anything in this city. They just stand on this street corner and hand me the
Yeah.
Pokeballs that I missed when I was throwing them at Pokemon and stuff like that. And I had the same issue with Scarlet and Violet, where like it didn't feel like it was a living world. It felt like a buffet for me to go catch everything. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
like my general feeling is like it's not necessarily new with Z to A or Za, but it's just it continues to elude them. I feel like because Pokemon is supposed to be this living world full of these creatures and stuff like that, it's probably really hard to make that game. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think that quality it hasn't been bridged yet for me personally. And that's the main thing I'm taking away from this is that, yeah, it's all set inside a city. It was probably a good idea. The open world has not been great, in my opinion, in the other games, but the city's lifeless. And it's Imran Khan had a really good observation that it's basically just a maze. You're just walking through a maze. It doesn't feel like a city,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a maze with designated zones to catch Pokemon. And when I'm in the zones, I have fun catching Pokemon because it's fun to do that. But
Yeah.
thinking of it critically, I'm really conflicted about the modern Pokemon games.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I've never really sat and thought exactly what was missing in the newer installments for me. I think a lot of it has been for my own personal taste, and the designs don't seem to mesh with like the new generations.
Mm,
Like there's some hits that I feel like there's more misses for me in terms of the original the first few generations felt much more organic in a lot of ways and
hmm.
more embodied in a world that I could see potentially existing. Whereas now it's like, okay, we have a possessed necklace.
Yeah,
Like this is a
this
okay.
Pokemon
Well,
is a teacup. Okay.
yeah, this is a teacup. Okay, sure, all right.
To be
And so
fair,
that's how.
sorry, to be fair, I don't envy
Yeah.
the Pokemon like designers who have to create,
Oh,
Pokemon number
absolutely
1200 or
not.
whatever and have it be unique.
Yeah,
It's got to be
I can
impossible.
imagine. Yeah, that is just such a daunting task. I wouldn't want it. So I try not to knock that too hard. It's just more, I guess, ultimately a taste thing for me.
Yeah, I
But
get you.
I think you're absolutely right in that the movement to 3D has made the world feel, yeah, so much more lifeless and empty in a lot of ways. Where with other games, sometimes you can kind of just let that go. But with Pokemon and the illusion of this teeming world of Pokemon for you to discover and
Yeah.
see, yeah, it becomes a lot more difficult. And so I appreciate you saying that because it's not something I've really sat and thought about. I just knew the current installments weren't really hidden for me, and I didn't
Hmm.
really think too hard about why. Out of the games that you did or have been playing, has there been anything that you've been like really excited about? Like Pokemon seems to not be quite there. Anything kind of capture your heart as you've been playing this week?
Well, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it has been fun to dive back into Madden 2005, a football game from
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, for a little project that I'm doing. Was one of my favorite games in high school, and I think it's the best one in the series of all them that I've played. Um, there's a myth of the casual gamer who only plays Madden, and then you have like the people like us who do video game podcasts and talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. Guess what? I love Madden too. It's just I kind of fallen off the series as we go. I've had fun revisiting that just as a nostalgia hit and kind of looking back on a favorite from 20 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
the game I found the most interesting that I've been playing has been Vampire on the Masquerade Bloodlines. The
Mm.
new game just came out recently. I have not played the haven't touched it. I didn't play the original one, so I'm playing it for the first time. And I have a real affection for like janky PC games from 20 plus years ago, like PC
Yeah.
RPGs especially. I was raised by Morrowind, so like that's my comfort zone is games like that
Yeah.
in a way. And Bloodlines is real rough, but it's really really interesting. It's a world that's really interesting to be in. um the writing, the voice acting, the dialogue, the situations that you find yourself in. It's just a really cool idea, and like a vampire RPG shouldn't be as rare as I feel like it is.
Mm,
Where you actually like you are a vampire. It's not like there's vampires around. Um, there's a couple others I can think of, but like this one is like tabletop inspired RPG style, not like a
okay.
not like a modern action RPG type thing. And
Right.
so you allocate skill points and you can talk your way out of situations. And there's a little bit of like immersive sim DNA where it's like, you need to get in that room. There's three different ways you can do it. Figure out how to get in there. That kind of stuff. And it's like the combat's terrible and there's the you need to patch the game, otherwise it just straight up won't run on modern systems. So it's like it's rough in that way, but it's interesting. It's got a ton of character, and those are really games that I like really value checking out, even if they're older.
Mm,
So
hmm.
I'm having a good time with it.
That's cool. What system is it on?
As far as I know, is only PC. I don't think it's ever been
Only
on
PC.
consoles.
Okay. Very cool. I have not played any of the vampire franchise.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that's been in the back of my mind that eventually someday I think I would love to go and try it. It's just I've never had the time. So
Hmm.
I'm happy that you're like enjoying your time just going back and reliving. Or I guess is this the first time you've played it or are
Yeah.
you replaying it?
Yeah.
It's the
First
first
time.
time.
Hmm.
Very cool. So not reliving the experience.
Yeah. But reliving the experience of those old PC style
Right.
RPGs. This
Yeah.
weird like transition era into 3D away from the isometric views and stuff. They're very interesting games, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you've got some books you're reading,
Yeah.
also within that Halloweeny kind of vibe. At least
Right.
the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you're a big fantasy reader. Have
Hmm.
you read now I heard this on a podcast said by the author of the series. It sounds wrong in my head. I can't argue with the author. Have you read Malazan, Book of the Fallen?
I have not.
Okay.
The Last and Book of the Fallen.
Big
I'm
long
searching
fantasy
that up.
series. It's 10 books, and most notably for readers of big long fantasy series, it's finished. It's all done. Which
Oh,
is
hey.
very
Okay.
underrated quality, right?
Yeah.
So um, a couple years ago, I read the first book, Gardens of the Moon, and then I started the second one. I got distracted, and it's been so long. The books are really dense, so I couldn't just
Okay.
pick it up in the middle. So I started to read the first one again. But I got it from the library. My time ran out. I couldn't renew it. And I'm waiting for an order to come in from my local bookstore. And so in the meantime, I decided to read Frankenstein because it's been sitting on my shelf and I haven't read it since English class in high school. So
Hmm.
I'm
The former English teacher in me is so excited and
yeah.
proud.
I you know,
Like, let's
I
go.
I remember liking it in English class, but that's all I literally all I remember. I
Hmm.
barely remember the story at all. Only the most famous, I know that Frankenstein's the name of the guy, not the monster, and that's all I remembered from the story. So, I'm probably a third of the way through the book. Um, it's like the revision, I think. It's not the original version. It's one from a few years later. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like it's kind of surprising me because it's really old prose. Of course, the book is over 200 years old at this point. Um, but it's a real page turner. Like it's really exciting at the point where I'm at it. He just returned home after someone in the family died, and he had an encounter with the monster out in the woods, and it was like a big thing. And it's like I'm flipping through this. I'm like, I can't believe how readable this is. Just a
Yeah.
real testament to Mary Shelley, I guess.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it was so cool because I saw, excuse me, I saw that you put this in the show notes for today. And so for folks in the who get the newsletter, again, you can sign up at geeksandgrounds.com. I linked to I don't know if it's the same version that you're reading, but I linked to a version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein that's in the Internet Archive that's been
Hmm.
uploaded for free. So if folks do want to just take a stab at reading it and join Dave in this page turning,
Yeah.
like epic story, definitely you can check out in the newsletter. You can also just Google it because it's on Google for
Right.
free. But that way you have an easy access point if you'd like to just pick it up and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
You've never
The
read the
new
story.
It's good. I really like it so far. And the new Guillermo del Toro movie has kind of brought Frankenstein back up to
Yeah.
the surface of the pop culture, the mainstream, the
Hmm.
zeitgeist. Those things. Um,
Yes.
so if you've never read the story and if you watch that movie or if you've watched other adaptations of it, I think the book is really good.
Hmm. That's so neat. Now I'm like, maybe I should reread Frankenstein because I don't think I've read it since I was a teacher, which was a very long time ago at
Uh-huh.
this point. Yeah, I don't want to date myself too much, so I won't say exactly how long, but it's a very long time.
Hmm.
But that's cool. So for is it what was the name? Gardens of the Moon
Yeah,
is part of the
Malazan, Book of
series
the Fallen.
Malazan.
Yeah.
Okay. So for that, I guess, what kind of fantasy is that series? I guess I'm very curious about it.
It is dense. It's political, dark fantasy,
Okay.
where the gods are active participants in regular life. Like they'll show up and like do god stuff, and it's like a big deal when that
Okay.
happens. Um, it's one of those series where there's a ton of characters, a ton of proper nouns in general. Um, and it's really a slow thing. I think that this first book was the first published work that this author had done. I might be wrong, but I have heard that
Wow.
like he gets better as a writer as the series goes along. I still like the first book a lot. It's a really interesting world that was built. And
Hmm.
I think I might be remembering wrong. I think it was a tabletop setting adapted for adapted into a big long epic series. But
Okay.
definitely one to like find some supplementary material to like review. There's a fairly famous podcast called 10 Very Big Books that was like a read along podcast.
Hmm.
And it's really helpful because there's so many characters, there's so many locations, you switch viewpoints between so many different people, but it's just a really cool world. And there's not a lot of action, but the action is
Hmm.
interesting. It's a lot of like scheming, talking, having characters talking about the events of the world. um the first book begins with the emperor dying and a new empress taking over, and like there's a bunch of turnover because of that, and machinations and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's cool. I really like it.
Nice. I am constant. Yeah, you're absolutely right in that I'm a fantasy fan and I am constantly looking for new series to start. And the fact that this is a finished one,
Hmm.
um, and it has 10 books,
Yep.
sign me up. I'm so excited to get started.
Yeah.
Um,
What about you? What have you been up to?
I have I have been on a RPG kick. I will say I'm still playing Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I have not made progress, but I'm still like I booted it up the other day and then I ended up not playing because I was like, no, I need to book out more time to like really get into it. I'm also playing Silk Song, so those are my continuous. It's still happening. I
Hmm.
just have not finished them yet. Um, Silk Song honestly has been going great. I'm uh, very close to the end of Act Two, loving it. Really excited to get to Act Three and see where like things really seem to go down,
Oh
as far as
yeah.
my friends keep telling me. Yeah, and you also have told me, so I'm really looking forward to that. But a lot of my time, gaming wise, has actually been spent playing Final Fantasy 16, which was a super random. I plugged in my PlayStation. I only play my PlayStation when I'm playing Final Fantasy. Like this, it's my Final Fantasy machine at this
Mm.
point. And I was downloading Final Fantasy X, and I saw that I had the Final Fantasy 16 disc in my machine. And I was like, you know what? Why not just boot this up? Let's give it a try. Because I tried it years back when it launched, 16, bounced off of it, and I've been meaning to go through all the Final Fantasies, so why not just see? And I've been playing it on story mode just to go through the story. I'm not super concerned with trying to, get all the trophies or do anything fancy. I just want to know what the story is about.
Hmm.
And I will say I am going to be finishing it because I've already gotten far enough. I just want to finish the story.
Hmm.
I'm not super into it. Um, I have a lot of feedback and
Mhm.
critiques on, I think, what is a honestly moderately good game, but when looking at it in terms of like a Final Fantasy installment and just as like in addition to fantasy and RPGs in general, I think it's very like middle of the road for me. Um kind of at best, and I don't think I would play it again. I don't think I would really recommend it to folks. It's solidly done, but there's nothing in it that's compelling to me about the protagonist in particular. Um I was telling Sam, my husband, I was like, I think this is like the Batman of protagonists in Final Fantasy. And that's things because like you have a lot of stoic, quiet, kind of like mask, very like, I don't know, dude, sullen guys in Final Fantasy.
Mhm.
But this, I don't know, there's something about Clive that just does not stick to me, does not resonate with me. And then the fact that there's no sort of ensemble to really build off of, create any attachment, I just have a lot of issues with it. So I'm going to
Yeah.
finish it. I think it plays very nicely. The world is really beautiful. There are some compelling story arcs, but
Mhm.
ultimately, I am just so ready to see what Final Fantasy 17 has, and hopefully, they reevaluate I think some of the things that really are Final Fantasy pillars that did not hit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
I have, and I agree with you
Yeah.
about a lot of things. I it's not a game where I'm going to be like, this is a bad game, but
Yeah.
I do think that it leads with its most interesting stuff and gets progressively less interesting as the game goes on. And I think the combat is like really flashy and like fun to look at. But I got pretty bored by it as I went through the game, and I was playing on the normal
Yeah.
difficulty. um it has a real there's a certain type of RPG that I find myself doing the same thing every single combat, and
Yes.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 16 really felt like that. There was nothing different about this enemy versus this enemy other than like, you know, their attacks are different or whatever, but how I respond is never different, if that makes
Yes.
sense. Which in an
Yeah.
action game, I don't feel like there's a lot of pedigree behind this as an action game, and I don't feel like that should be the thing. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's tough because I'm playing it kind of at the same time, you know, where Expedition 33 is like very clear in my mind.
Hmm.
And that game, even though the system in 16 is like active, sort of real time combat versus Expedition 33, which is a turn based combat, I can see where in 16 some of the you have sort of these different elements, dominance that you're switching between, and in my head I can see how that could compare to, I forget what the system is called in Expedition 33, but the different like lumina,
Hmm. Yeah.
whatever things that you're assigning and sort of building chains off of and combining. um, and I can see the similarities, and then the ways that implemented they just feel so different, and I agree 16 is very one note. um, and yeah, I think, and no offense, I know we have a lot of Marvel fans who listen, and I think a weakness of Marvel is that they use like fanfare really readily, so that explosions don't mean anything by,
Mm.
you know, halfway through the movie, because you've seen so many explosions already a lot of times. And I felt like that with Final Fantasy 16, where in the first 30 minutes, there is the most like epic battle happening and so
Hmm.
many explosions, and you're just like, wow, like, how could this get any bigger? And the thing is, it can't. And so there's
Kind of,
no
yeah.
like, yeah, there's no major dynamics, and I'm probably about 60% of the way through the game, so maybe I'll be proven wrong by the end, but as it stands, I'm like, it feels like, yeah, it's a very sort of even keeled game, but even in that, everything is like at 10, you know, in
Hmm.
terms of like everything needs to be so dramatic and so wild. I'm like, give me, I don't know, like give me go helping a villager. Well, the thing is, you do help
You
villagers, and it
do, and
just
it's
doesn't
really
seem,
boring in 16.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, and I don't even remember because I don't care
Well,
about the characters or the villages.
I think that's like the main thing. as far as the story goes. Like, I think the plot gets it abandons its most interesting ideas about halfway
Yeah.
through or three quarters of the way through, something like that. But I think the bigger deal is like I think a lot of RPGs survive on, less than thrilling plots, because you love all the characters in the group,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a party based RPG. And I think like Sid's a good entertaining character in 16,
Yeah.
and like Clive is he's all right as a protagonist. I'm not mad at Clive. I think Jill is one of the worst written characters
Oh,
in the history of the series. So, and she's supposed to
she's
be a
so
major,
disappointing.
yeah. So, I mean, that's like that's your people right there, basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I don't need to spend like more time bashing on 16, but I'm with you. I think it's like it led really, really strong. It had like maybe the
Mm-hmm.
best demo in video game history, I think.
Yeah, it had a really strong demo.
Yeah.
And I
And
remember playing it and being like, whoa, oh, maybe we have something
yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah. And then it just
And
slow
oh,
decline after that for me.
yeah. And I will admit, I'm a tough sell for the medieval setting. Like, I'm usually kind of biased against games that have that.
Mm,
And so, for me to have played the demo and been excited to try the rest of it and then not, it's just, I felt very roller coaster in terms of my personal like journey with this game.
hmm
But I will be finishing it. But yeah, so that's Final Fantasy 16. I'm very excited to be playing 10. This is
hmm
the short of it. Um, Another RPG that I started, I've only gotten maybe about an hour in, so I'm very early on, is a game that came out this year called Quartet.
hmm
This is an RPG that has basically four characters at the start that you can choose from, each telling sort of a different aspect of this wider story. I'm really excited. Again, I haven't gotten far enough to really say how strong the evolution of the story is, but it's extremely compelling. I'm playing Alexandria, I think her name is. She's a shop girl in a city that's somewhat modern. Like, we've got cars, electricity just got, implemented into town, and so everyone's like, we've hit the modern age. And so it's also a fun just like time setting for this for an RPG to be in, because I don't feel like I've seen games set in the period that this seems to represent.
hmm
Have you tried or heard of Quartet
I
at
haven't
all?
played it, but I have heard a lot of good things from the RPG
Mm-hmm.
fan friends in my life. So, and I
Yeah.
loved like Chained Echoes is kind of like a similar
Yes.
type of thing. I love that game. So I'm really excited to try Quartet sometime. It's cool
Hmm.
that indies are putting out RPGs like this now.
I know. I feel like we've had like RPG fans have been feasting the last 2 or 3 years, especially
hmm
like just really good RPGs coming out. Like off the top of my head, we have like Sea of Stars that came out a few years ago. Just yeah, Chained Echoes. I finished that last year. Outstanding.
hmm
So yeah, really good stuff. And then for watching, because it was Halloween, we've been going through The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I've watched before, but it's been long enough that I didn't remember the details. Honestly, I think it is a peak ghost story, but in Mike Flanagan tradition, I have created a different ending in my head canon than what he created, because Mike Flanagan cannot write endings, or whoever does the writing for him cannot write endings. But
Love it.
everything leading to it, outstanding. I think I have realized I love haunted house stories, and I
hmm
love the ones that go into the emotional element of why something would be haunted and sort of the human emotions related to it versus just like the jump scares of a ghost.
hmm
And I think it does a really good job with that.
Nice.
I finished The Substance, which is a Demi Moore movie that came out, I think, last year.
Okay.
Oh, I wish I could say that I loved it, because everyone I know was hyping it up really strongly to me. I think the first 3 quarters of the movie were really strong. Even though it was super gory, I was like, I'm in it.
Mm.
I think this is a great concept. Demi Moore is delivering. I don't remember the name of the actress who's like her counterpart, but also delivering. And then the last quarter of it, I think, just changed the tone and became so much of the campy,
Mm.
almost like the super sort of like almost comedic gory kind
Yeah.
of horror
Yeah.
that is just not to my taste at all. So it kind of lost me at the end. I was like, oh,
Gotcha.
you almost had me. So if you don't mind that kind of horror, like the super camp mixed in with super gore, you might enjoy it. Because I do think it had some really cool things it was doing. But I think the first 3/4 were great, and then I'll try to not think about the ending of that one
Yeah.
either.
There we go. Just make up another headcanon, last quarter of the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what fanfic is for,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Just
It just reminds
so
me of
yeah.
like Stephen King stuff where like it's
Yeah.
another person who's just famously like endings are real rough with Stephen King from time to
Oh
time.
my gosh.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just so funny. I feel like I really enjoy Mike Flanagan in particular, like Midnight Mass, um,
Hmm.
Hill House. I feel like there are a bunch of mini series he's done that I'm like, I'm with you until the last episode or two, and then you just really don't. Like, I feel like you're writing a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Bly Manor was just really, really, really well done, I
Good.
think. Um, cool. So I think that is it for the stuff we're excited about. As always, we have links to everything we discussed in the newsletter. I've got a link to Frankenstein in there
Yeah.
already, links to the Steam pages of the games that we talked about, all that good stuff. And if you're not already signed up for the newsletter, you can go to geeksandgrounds.com for that. And you can see an archive of all the newsletters if you're looking to try and recall something from an older episode. So that brings us to this week's main topic, which is our Indiescovery. So we've got a lot of games coming out this November. I feel like the 11th, especially,
Mm-hmm.
kind of ridiculous. So we're going to go through, we each picked 3. And there are plenty more games that you should be excited about. We'll have them in the Geeks and Grounds calendar on geeksandgrounds.com. But these are the 3 that we're sort of most personally invested in. I guess let's alternate just to like
Yeah.
switch it up. Dave, did you want to go first with your first pick?
Sure. Yeah. So you remember last year there was that day in May when 1000 Times Resist and like
Yes.
8 other awesome indie games all came out on the same
I think it's
day?
like a May 9th or May 7th, something like that.
Yeah. That's what this feels like, especially like November 10th and 11th. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
5 games that you definitely want to play all coming out on the same day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the top of my list though was Goodnight Universe, which is on the 11th.
Yeah.
It is made by the people who made Before Your Eyes, which is one of the most singularly great video games I think I've ever played. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's automatic, like, oh, they're making another game. I will be there day and date. I will be there. Um, and so it's coming out on PC and on Switch too, but it is just like Before Your Eyes. It uses your webcam and um, you should play it with a webcam if possible. It's not creepy using your webcam, I promise. It uses it.
Mm-hmm.
You know how, like, for anyone who doesn't know, like, what this studio is doing, putting you in first person in video games is like a way to kind of have you feel and inhabit the character just a little bit more than normal and see the world the way they see it. And using the webcam specifically, it tracks your blinks. Goodnight Universe also tracks your facial expression, big smile or
Mm-hmm.
big frown. And it also tracks turning your head side to side. I think those are the only things it tracks. And
Yeah.
using those to control gameplay in Before Your Eyes, and then in Goodnight Universe, that's what's coming up. It puts you even closer to the emotions of the things through. It's just this simple little thing, but it really makes a world of difference. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, Before Your Eyes, anyone who's played it, you know what's up. But this is an automatic, like, I need to see what this studio is doing with the next thing. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first one. Oh, you play as a psychic baby in Goodnight Universe. That's the pitch. The Steam description tells you that. So they got something cooked up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. As soon as I saw it was, the Before Your Eyes devs, I was like, whatever they're doing, I'm going to try it. Like, that's just easy, hands down, no questions asked.
Hmm.
They did such a good job with Before Your Eyes. It's just one of those teams I'm like, I will trust. I will trust that you've got something up your sleeve, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally agree. Um, For my first one, I put Ambrosia Sky Act 1.
Hmm.
This is coming out on the 10th by Soft Rains on just PC. And this is a game that I tried at PAX West for the first time. And it's an incredible blend between the mechanics of like a power wash simulator where you're cleaning and going through a sort of abandoned space station, trying to figure out what went wrong there, like how it got contaminated, what happened to the people who passed away there. And so you've got this like very meditative task combined with a little bit of light sort of power washing combat, because there's like some stuff there that you have to evade and make sure it doesn't hit you. But at the end of the day, it's a story about grief and death and sort of what happens when you're trying to remember those who like did work and that was important to like your life and were important to you, and how do you remember them.
Hmm.
um did you get a chance to play this
I did.
at maybe? Yeah.
During Next Fest, I played it.
Yes. My gosh. I really loved it. I think it has something very interesting that it's doing. And I'm not usually like a hard sci-fi person, and this feels a bit hard sci-fi in sort of the setting, but it's very soft sci-fi in terms of the story that they're trying to tell. So I'm really interested in what they're doing, and it's always fascinating to me when games choose to release in parts.
Hmm.
And this is just act 1, so I'm curious to see how they are going to be pacing it as well, when
Yeah,
it comes down to it.
that episodic thing, I feel like a lot of people have tried it and there's been a lot of pushback on it. But
Yeah.
maybe for smaller teams with fewer like Hitman tried it and people hated it when Hitman did it.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
maybe for an indie team like the Ambrosia Sky team or the team that's doing Dispatch right now, little less expectations can just let them live a little bit. What's that?
Hmm.
Lost Records, was that game did that too, right?
Yes.
Um,
Which I will admit I did not enjoy in Lost
oh no.
Records the way they did it. So I'm hoping that doesn't pan out with
Yeah,
Ambrosia Sky the same way.
it was cool though. It's cool to
Yeah.
see like someone basically was like, "Oh, I played Power Wash Simulator and I loved it," or they had a similar idea, but we're going to tell a story using this type of gameplay basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will say the one critique that I had, and I couldn't tell because I played this only at PAX, and so I need to try the demo actually and see how it plays on my computer. But it was a little bit dark. And
Mm.
so I'm excited to try it on my computer and maybe mess with the settings a little bit and see if that helps improve some of the friction that I felt when playing. But I think the story is going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, really, really resonant.
Yeah, it was cool.
Um, yeah. What was your next one?
Yeah, the next one for me is Luminous Arise, which is also November 11th. It is a puzzle game. Luminous was it's already been a game. It's been a game for a long time now. I can't remember the original console, PSP, maybe something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's a falling block game, but it's not Tetris. It like kind of, it's hard to describe, but it's got a little bit of like matching up like symbols and colors, almost like a match 3 type thing, but it's not match 3. And then it has this horizontally scrolling vertical line that kind of takes away matches as it scrolls over the screen. And it's a really terrible description I just did of a cool puzzle game. It's pretty intuitive when you start playing it. The cool thing about this and why this is notable to me is the people who made Tetris Effect Connected are making this. And so they're giving Luminous the music, the audiovisual
Hmm.
experience that Tetris Effect was. They're bringing it to Luminous. And I played the demo for this during Next Fest and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm having an awesome time.
Hmm.
So for anyone who liked Tetris Effect, this is like a home run recommendation to try this one out.
Heck yeah. I had not seen this before, and I downloaded the demo when I saw you put in the show notes, and I will be playing it tonight. I'm
It's
so
cool.
excited.
It's also coming to VR, PSVR, and like
Ooh.
I don't have VR. I've never played any of these, but like I've heard Tetris Effect was an experience in VR, and I can imagine this will be
Hmm.
similar.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I could see it being very, very fun to play. Makes me Games like this made me wish I had a VR headset
Yeah, me
and
too.
could play for any extended period of time without getting a headache. Um, yeah, my next one is another November 11th release.
Hmm.
Wow, surprise, surprise. It is Winterboro, which is by Pine Creek Games, coming out on PC, Switch, and Xbox. Winterboro, it just looks like a illustration come to life. It is
Hmm.
so cute. You play as this little sort of mouse creature, and you return home to your childhood burrow. There's a bit of sort of this like tragic story that happens, a little Pixar feeling, I think, at the beginning. So there's like a tragedy that happens, and you're returning home to try and restore it. And it's a survival game, so you're collecting resources. The cold impacts you, so you have to build clothes, or I guess knit clothes, build furniture, build tools to make sure that you can survive the winter. And it's just really cute. I'm looking forward to it. This is kind of one of the more hyped, I would say, sort of cozy adjacent game releases happening, and so I really hope they can deliver.
Hmm.
And I quite enjoyed the demo when they put it out for Steam Next Fest. I think the biggest critique I have is, for me, the UI is just a little, it takes up a bit too much of the screen. And
Mm.
I wish I could kind of like make it a little bit smaller, sort of remove some of that UI just for my play experience. But
Hmm.
honestly, that's just me being a bit nitpicky. I think if you don't mind it, you probably wouldn't notice it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Winterboro.
Nice. It's not my type of game. I don't
Hmm.
play any survival games like that, but the way you described it made me laugh because I was like, "Oh, it's Frostpunk, but
Yeah.
it's not depressing and terrible all the time."
Yeah.
As in like
Yeah, or like
terrible
don't
situations.
starve.
Good game, but um
Yeah, you're not deciding child labor laws.
exactly. Yeah, we're not putting the kids to work
Yeah.
in the mines. Or maybe you are. It's just going to be very cute in Winterboro when you
Yeah.
decide to do that. I have seen it. I have seen it. The art looks really cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, it does look nice for people who like games like that. Um,
Yeah, it's very, very, I would say, I think a lot of like Watership Down or
yeah.
Redwall. So for fans of those series, there isn't like the communal aspect, like you're not in an abbey like in Redwall or anything like that, but sort of the vibe of being a small creature in a big world.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah. My final game is not November 11th. You get 2 whole days of rest until November
Whew.
13th when Gigasword comes out. I played this at PAX East, and it was one of those games that I stopped by because it's Akupara who's doing it and or publishing it. And I like, Akupara has good taste, I feel like. So I stopped by, and it's a solo developed Metroidvania puzzle action platformer type game, where you carry around a big sword, a Giga sword, if you will, legally
Whoa.
distinct Buster Sword. Think of it that way. But the thing about it is, it's too heavy for you to like jump and do platforming with because it's
Hmm.
really big. So they have a bunch of puzzles built around. Well, I need to get up there, but I can't take the sword because it's too heavy. How do I get the sword up to that place and continue on? And the demo was really tight. It felt pretty good to play. The puzzles were like the right mix of like I need to sit and think, but then the solution comes to me and I don't get stuck for too long, which is a really thin line in this type of like action
Hmm.
puzzle platformer. You want to be making steady progress and not get stuck in rooms for 5-10 minutes at a time. And I really felt like it. I don't know how you feel, but any game that makes a strong impression on a PAX convention like show floor is like
Yeah.
it's extra impressive to me because it's a horrible environment to like sink into a
Hmm.
game, and Gigasword really knocked a bunch of us out at PAX East. So looking forward to that. I think it's coming to every console and PC, even like
Nice.
Switch 1, PS4. I think it's coming to all of it.
Heck yeah. That's always really nice to hear.
Hmm.
I remember seeing this at PAX, and I remember every time I went to sort of see if I could play the demo, there was always someone in the seat.
Hmm.
And so I ended up just watching it. And I remember feeling like this would be a really cool game to play. And I was just like, I guess I'll just try it when it comes out later.
Yep.
But visiting the Steam page, I see that they have made the demo available on Steam. So if
Hmm.
anyone is listening and wanting to try, it's available to download. And I also just downloaded it while you were describing it.
There
So
we go.
that's very exciting.
Yeah, for fans of that kind of old school pixel art, side-scrolling
Hmm.
action adventure puzzle platformer, I think
Yeah.
it's gonna tick a lot of those boxes for people.
Hmm. Yeah. They have a very cute sort of part of their trailer where your character feeds a bunny.
Hmm.
So there are cute moments there too. Just
Yep.
wanted to shout that out because that was adorable. And the last one that we'll be sharing on the podcast, at least, for me, is Constance, which comes out one day after on November 24th. So closing out the end of the month. This is for honestly, like the Metroidvania, the platforming, and the Silksong fans.
Yep.
They're explicitly going for that audience. It's a beautiful, I think, hand drawn, hand sort of painted game where you play a young girl named Constance, who is a artist who wields a paintbrush, and you use that paintbrush not only to move through the environments but also as your weapon. The game's theme is about sort of combating mental health issues. I think it's going to get a bit emotional, but the gameplay is platforming. It's combat. It is just it's very slick feeling, and I played it and I was just in love. I fell in love as soon as I tried it at PAX. So
Yep.
yeah, I don't know if you also got to try it because I think it was at PAX East as well,
Yeah,
right?
I did play it at
Yeah.
PAX East, and I enjoyed it. A lot more like tough platforming focus than I mean, at the time I was like, oh, this is these people really liked Hollow Knight, but um
Yeah.
definitely felt like more platforming, a little bit less combat than a Hollow Knight.
Hmm.
But it has a really snappy control. The art's beautiful. So yeah, if you finished
Yes.
Silksong and you're like, where's my next beautiful hand-drawn Metroidvania, it might be this one.
I'd say maybe fans of Celeste might also find interest, especially with like the story.
Mm,
Um, I think there's a sort of emotional story that it's going to have, which I'm really excited to get into. And if you look at the screenshots, like I'm looking at the Steam page right now, the in a game with the artist as the main character, as painting as its tool, they have a really wonderful array of screenshots showing off the color palettes of the different biomes. So yeah, it just looks like it's going to be a beautiful game to experience.
yep.
Nice. So, again, if you're looking for a wider yet still curated list of releases that I've been keeping an eye on, that Dave's been keeping an eye on, we've got all of that going into the release calendar at geeksandgrounds.com. And I think that leads us to introducing this month's brew, which is talking a little bit about Final Fantasy X.
Let's go.
So, Dave, I have the Steam description here,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering if you can kick off our discussion by reading what the developers, the publishers have put into Steam as like the main description of the game.
It's actually really interesting. I've never read this Steam description before. This game's been
Yeah.
such a part of my life for so long. I don't even know how the developers would describe it, but they say for
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X, which originally released, for those who don't know, December 18th, 2001 for the PlayStation 2. And then the remaster, I think this is the remaster's release date, the 10 and 10-2 combo on May 12th, 2016. So Square
Hmm.
Enix says Final Fantasy X tells the story of a star blitzball player, Jenny, Titus, how do you say it?
Oh my gosh. I have gone both ways. Um, I've been doing Titus,
Yeah, it doesn't
but
feel good, does
happy
it?
to go. Yeah, I'm like, Titus honestly sounds, because in my head I'm like the tides,
Yeah, the
like
water. Yeah, it
water,
makes so much
ocean.
sense. Yeah.
Um, so I guess let's make the call here. Would you rather do Titus or Titus? And we're just gonna make that like the go-to for the
I've been doing
podcast.
Titus too. I can't argue with like how the artists themselves call him, but I
Hmm.
think they're wrong. But anyway, Titus. So
We'll go with Titus. Okay.
Final Fantasy X tells the story of a star blitzball player, Titus, who journeys with a young and beautiful summoner named Yuna on her quest to save the world of Spira from an endless cycle of destruction wrought by the colossal menace Sin.
How does that line up with your, like, do you read that description? You're like, yeah, that checks out with how I understand the game. Or how do you feel about it?
No, it's actually perfect. Like if you asked me to write a one sentence description encapsulating Final Fantasy X, I don't think I could do it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm a podcaster. I'll talk for 2 hours. I can't do it in one sentence. So
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's a good setup.
I think so too. I think and I also am very excited and interested to talk about the focus on like Titus versus Yuna, because I
Hmm.
think what's interesting to me is the dynamic between the two characters and how we as players connect with both of them. And I love that they mention like the fact that we are playing Titus, but there is a character who we don't play that is in many ways the protagonist as
Yeah,
well, at least,
right.
I think is a very cool element of this game.
Hmm.
I wanted to start off talking about the impact of Final Fantasy X because I feel like this game is a pivotal moment in the series of Final Fantasy, but
Hmm.
also just a pivotal moment in RPGs in general. And I'd like to dive in, and you put in some notes. And so I'd love for you to kick off kind of why historically this is a significant title that we're diving into here.
Yeah. So I think this is not really the case now, but there was a time when the world of RPGs looked to Final Fantasy to see what Final Fantasy was doing, especially, I want to say, maybe late Super Nintendo, but definitely on the
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII was such a massive thing that you had entire developers being like, where is our Final Fantasy VII? So
Mm-hmm.
all eyes on Final Fantasy. And I say that because they had this run of very, very successful games on the PlayStation with 7, 8, and 9. And then this is the first one on the PS2. And with that came a huge leap in visual fidelity, something that Final Fantasy as a series has always really cared about is
Mm-hmm.
cutting edge visuals. And especially in this era, um, almost going back to Final Fantasy VII, um, like pre-rendered cutscenes and like those in Final Fantasy VII, like the summon animations and things like that, all the way up to when they almost ruined the company by making the spirits within. They really cared and they
Yeah.
really took pride in that. So
Yeah.
I wasn't there for Final Fantasy X in 2001, but I know people were like, what is Final Fantasy going to do with this new console? All this new power.
Mm-hmm.
This is back when um, the difference between the PS1 and PS2 was a huge leap. It's not like it is now where you're like, I think I can tell the difference, but
Mm-hmm.
back then you definitely could. So, first one on the PS2, it's the first Final Fantasy game with voice acting. It is the first Final Fantasy game to get a direct sequel, which I hope maybe in the last
Yes.
episode I will do my pitch for people to play 10-2. Do not listen to the haters
Mm-hmm.
out there. I'll do that later.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a game of firsts. I think it's the first one with voice acting. I can't remember. It's definitely the first
Yes.
mainline one with voice acting.
Yes, I agree. I think it is the first one with voice acting. I love that it's the first. I think going to your visual fidelity first as well, I think it's the first one that doesn't have the painted sort of isometric, like what I forget what they're called, like the painted backgrounds, pre-rendered.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of. This is like 3D environments, full 3D environments for the first time, I believe, as well.
Sometimes.
Um,
Like interior spaces,
that's
like
true. Yeah.
when you're in Besaid in the houses or in the temples, those interior
Hmm.
spaces look a little bit more pre-rendered, but the world itself
Yeah.
is a 3D world.
Yes. I also was trying to think of other firsts. This is also the first time I think you're able to use summons in battle
Hmm.
for an extended period, not just as a one off super powerful attack. You can actually control them in battle, which I thought was really cool as a
Hmm.
player, as a kid playing this. And also, this for me, I mentioned earlier how I'm not a huge fan of medieval settings, which was the predominant setting for Final Fantasy, kind of that Western medieval vibe until like 7, 8 even had a bit more modern feels, sort of dystopian tech, but still kind of Western-ish, Western mixed with a little Japanese culture, I think.
They have hot dogs.
Um,
Hot dogs are canonically a
hot
thing in
dogs
8,
are,
so
yeah, like that's Western, I guess.
uh-huh.
Um, what I loved about 10, even I was in high school when this came out. I was like freshman, I think eighth or ninth grade. Um, I was obsessed with the fact that this was set in such a vibrant world. It was inspired by places like Thailand, inspired by the South Pacific, just Southeast Asia in general, Japan. And so there is a vibrancy and a level of detail and just no, just like just care that went into this world, that was just such a different setting from any other Final Fantasy, which I personally thought was incredible, but also I think is a landmark in the series and one that I'd love to see them continue to explore, versus the medieval stuff, which again, I am a little, not a hater exactly, but I am almost there.
Just bordering on hating. Yeah.
Bordering, yeah.
It is an interesting setting. It's the only Final Fantasy, I guess the duology is the only one that's done a setting like this. It really felt like somebody was like, we need something really different. What is a place that has, maybe cool architecture, a cool setting,
Mhm.
fashion, something like that. I think Tetsuya Nomura was involved in FF10's like costume design and character design. Yeah,
Mhm.
Lulu has a million belts, so I'm sure he was involved in that. Um,
Yeah.
so um, it really feel like they were looking for inspiration in other places. Like you said, uh, like 7 was like sci-fi. 8, I don't know what 8 is. I can't sum it up in one word or so.
Yeah.
9 was like the return to cozy sci-fi, and then 10 is something completely different. So
Mhm.
there's some interesting stuff we'll talk about probably next episode about like how they handled this setting, in like
Mhm.
ways that if they did it in 2025, I'm not sure they would have asked John
Yeah.
DiMaggio to do the voice acting that way, stuff like that. But um, it is a cool place to be, and it's super colorful. It's a beautiful game. I was going to say when we
Mhm.
were talking about visuals, I first played this in 2006. I moved into my college dorm and my roommate had a PS2. I never had one. So I watched him play the opening cutscene and I was like, this is 2006.
Oh,
The Xbox 360 was out at this point. And I watched the opening cutscene and I was like, this is the most beautiful game I've ever seen.
yeah.
5 years later, an entire console later, it was still the best looking thing I had ever seen at the time.
Mhm. And frankly, because I haven't started my replay yet. I'm going to be starting tomorrow, I think. But I rewatched the intro cutscene and then also the first time Yuna dances
Yeah,
on YouTube just the other day, just to kind of like get in the mood. And they still hold up.
they
Like
do.
these cutscenes are still absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just no denying it. It's just a beautiful game.
Yeah, I should note also, so for this playthrough, I'm playing the PlayStation 2 version. I'm not playing the remaster because
Nice.
it's been 20 years since I played the PS2 version. So I'm playing that one again. They're not that different. People have opinions about which is better, but they're not that different. Nobody needs to sweat
Hmm.
over what version they play. I was just
Yeah.
curious because it'd been so long. And even the PS2 version still looks incredible, those cutscenes.
Hmm. Yeah. I wish my PS2 is in storage currently. I will be playing on PS5 just using it's the 10 what is it? Remaster disc
Yeah.
that you can buy. Yeah, I'm just doing that.
Quick question for you. What
Hmm.
How many times have you played this? What number playthrough is this for you?
Oh my gosh. I genuinely don't have a solid number on the playthrough count because this is one of those games that I think I've maybe totally finished maybe 5 or 6 times. But I have started and just like hopped in countless additional times.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is a game that I am definitely familiar with. And have loved over like since high school.
Yeah.
So this is a game that I have grown old with in a
Yep.
lot of ways.
Same here. I think this is maybe my sixth time playing through the game. I
Yeah.
I had 3 times where I got like very, very far into the
Hmm.
into the last dungeon and just didn't beat it. And then I finally beat it for the first time a few years ago. Then I played it again for my episode on my show, and now I'm playing it again. So we're both very familiar with it.
Yeah, which I'm really excited because I think there's a conversation actually I had with a friend, Josh Boykin of IntelliGame,
Yeah.
recently about this idea of familiarity. And we had this actually when we talked about mouthwashing in the Hangout, where a lot of times as you replay games, there's so much value I think that we often miss when we're constantly chasing like what's the new game that we got to play, what's the game of the year list that we got to hit up, and being able to replay games allows us to see more deeply in them, to catch those details, to learn more about ourselves because we are different people each time we replay it. And so it's just really exciting that both of us will be coming at it from a replay perspective versus totally fresh, which I think there is value. And, I'm excited for everyone who is totally fresh. And I would love to hear about those experiences, whether in the Discord or if you want to email at Jenny@geeksandgrounds.com, because I think I wish I could have that to a certain extent because it's such a fun game. But I'm excited for the discussion that we're going to be able to have because of the experience.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a rare treat for me to replay a game at all, let alone one I've played as many times as this one. To then come and talk about it, and I think especially because your show allows us to spread it out and really, like, if there's a scene that we want to dig into, um, neither of us are going to be surprised by what happens. So I love like playing the game again and picking up on like, a voice line or, a look that someone gives or something. Like those things stick out more on these replays.
hmm One of the things I found, because I did a little bit of like just kind of side research on the game itself, some of the early concepts. I will link this in the newsletter as well because I thought this was just really fascinating. If I knew this, I did not remember it. But apparently, in its early concept form, Final Fantasy X was originally going to be called, or temporarily called, 17, like the number 17, and then they have the spelling 7 space teen. And it's so fascinating to see the early concept of Final Fantasy X's story, which, especially for folks who played or are playing Expedition 33, it may sound vaguely familiar. And so I wanted to read it out loud because I found this today when I was just looking through Reddit and Wikipedia. But the original story for Final Fantasy X was the protagonist, who looks similar to Tidus, was traveling the world seeking a cure for a pandemic that killed people when they reached the age of 17. And in my head, I was like, this sounds like a gamage, like a modified version. And especially with Claire Obscure talking about how much of its references are drawn from Final Fantasy X. It's like, I wonder if this lore made it to the devs. And, I'm just, the degrees of association and inspiration, I think, are strong here. So yeah, I thought that was a really fun fact because I did not know that was an early concept for the game.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Just funny to me, the stereotype of Japanese RPGs, especially having just all teenage party members. And in the original concept, they're just like, no, everyone over 17 is dead. You cannot have someone older in the party. That's why they're all teenagers.
No, which we are going to be, one of my favorite characters in this game is Aaron, who is the wizened age of, if you look at him, you think, what, 55?
Oh, yeah.
45?
Yep.
No, this man is 35, which is younger than me.
Younger than me. And he is a grizzled old man in this game.
I remember being a kid and being like, man, that guy's so old. Oh, how is he doing this still?
Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
Now I'm like, how is he doing this? He's 35. I couldn't carry that sword and that jug of whatever he's got there.
his vacation juice,
What they call it in Space Jam, the special sauce or secret sauce or something like that.
The secret sauce. Yeah. But yeah, you gotta love a game, and Final Fantasy X is one of those games where your protagonists are all like 17, 18. I think Yuna's 17, Tidus is right around there. Riku is maybe 15 or 16.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's one of those fun, let's save the world. We're basically kids doing all of
And then
this.
do you know how like canonically how old Lulu is? Because she's kind of got that vibe sometimes where she's like, man, these kids like.
Yeah. I feel like she's got to be at least 20. Hold on, let me look this up.
So in my head, her and Waka are like maybe late 20s, maybe 30s, something like that. They're for sure, when you look it up, they're 19 though.
Lulu, we were close with Lulu. Lulu's 22 and
Okay.
Waka's 23. So
Okay.
Waka honestly seems a little older than 23 to me. Lulu I could see her as a 22. But yeah, it's just very funny. Age in these games,
Yeah,
man. It's
22-year-old
wild.
goth mommy Lulu. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, mentally I just kind of add 10 years to everyone
Yeah.
and canonically that makes it better for me.
Yep. Agreed.
You have a comment here about in terms of impact, and
Mhm.
I'd love to dig into it because I will admit I am in a bubble of I love this game so much. I actually have not heard this feedback that for some series fans, this game marks the turn of Final Fantasy moving away from what they look for in a Final Fantasy game or what they hope for the series.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious, what are some of those critiques that people have of this game, just sort of on a broad level,
Right.
that people can keep an eye out for potentially?
So, as we said before, Final Fantasy fans have never hated, never been disappointed with the
No.
direction the franchise has taken. They've been very happy with everything that's ever happened,
Yeah.
myself included, and you too, Jenny, as we know.
Yeah.
Um,
My conversation on Final Fantasy 16
yeah,
definitely went no critiques at
nothing.
all.
Nope. Period. It's perfection all the way since the first one. So,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people got their introduction to the series either with maybe Final Fantasy 2, aka 4, maybe 3, aka 6, but like 7 just brought so many people into Final Fantasy. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get an expectation based on what these games are. You have a certain type of combat, you have overworlds that you can explore with different towns to visit, and they're like kind of open world. You can explore around, full of secrets and stuff to do, maybe optional party members, um, and stuff like that. And Final Fantasy X starts to mark a pivot away from that style of game. There's some
Yeah.
stuff that's still there, but for example, this is a linear walk through corridors for the
Mm-hmm.
entire game until a certain point where they're like, here's an airship you can fly to different. There is never a point where you get like an overworld where you can walk from town to town. And that's the
Yeah.
first time in the series that that's happened.
Yeah. Another first.
Yeah. And I mean, the setting is much different. The focus on voice acting, I mean, this game's voice acting it's a legend for good and bad. And it's caused a lot of, it's divisive. We'll say that the voice acting
Mm-hmm.
is divisive.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have some things to talk about as we go. But in talking with a lot of Final Fantasy fans, 10 is the one where it's like either 10 is where people stopped being in on Final Fantasy and they're like, it's no longer what I grew up playing. It no longer feels like Final Fantasy because they did change a lot of stuff, to be fair. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's the last one before they're like, I don't know what they're doing with this series anymore. Because 11's an MMO, 12 is a single player MMO in a lot of ways, 13 is
Mm-hmm.
its own can of worms. And so 10 is kind of this inflection point in the series, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first one. 8's really divisive, but it's the first one where I see people out there who are like, this is not Final Fantasy to me anymore.
Mm. That's so interesting. I think what's really fascinating to me is as someone because 7 was my entry point to
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy. I started at 7, then went 8, uh skipped 9 and went straight to 10, and then eventually came back to 9. So I started in sort of that quote modern era of Final Fantasy. It's funny that I think as a player I had never really clocked how different the game was when it was happening. I think
Mm-hmm.
now looking back, I can see, oh, yeah, this was actually a really big shift. But as a player at the time, I was honestly just vibing. I was so happy. I was like, here's another Final Fantasy. And they've changed the world and characters up every time. So why not these changes? And I just was not, I don't know. I didn't think that hard
Yeah.
about it. I wasn't very smart in terms of like recognizing the design being that different.
Hmm.
And now you're saying it. I'm like, yeah, actually, that's a really good point. And it's funny that I remember playing, I think it was 13. And the first time I played 13, I felt the corridors, but I never felt that, at least consciously, when I was playing in 10. And
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of like thinking back to like what made it different. So that's just more of a personal sort of introspective
You, it,
journey that I'll need to take.
it's a common criticism of 10 in a
Hmm.
common defense of 13 is like 10 did that too. Why does 10 not get
Yeah.
the criticism for it? It's because
Yeah.
10's outside. It doesn't feel like you're confined in the 13 is like mostly inside
That's
in literal
fair. Yeah.
hallways. And in 10, you can't explore the forest, but you're in a forest. It doesn't feel as confined to
That's
me.
so
So
true. Oh
that's the
my
one
gosh.
I've had so many conversations about the Final Fantasy series, uh and it's this game in particular. Like I said, it's kind of divisive for as acclaimed as it is. There are a lot of people who really don't like this game. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's funny to me is I've always also said this is my favorite. This is my 10 out of 10, like 7 or 8 out of 10. Like I think this game, honestly, if I was ranking it and being critical and putting like a game journalist hat on, I would probably give it a 7 or 8, maybe 8. Um, but as a player and emotionally, nostalgically, this is definitely a game that holds so much weight for me. It is a personal 10 out of 10. So I definitely see these critiques. And I'm excited to play them with them in mind to
Hmm.
because again, I think that comparison, I've never thought about it until now. But I was again 13. I remember playing and feeling like, what the heck is this? We're running in a straight line the whole time. I'm like, technically, you're doing the same thing in 10, but I never felt that way. So I think it's just really cool. I'm happy that you brought that up.
Hmm.
And I'm excited to think about it as we play.
Yeah.
I guess are there any because we've sort of blended personal significance as well as sort of historical impact
Hmm.
talking about this game. Is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of just any personal memories you have of any of the times that you've played the game, or maybe anything in particular you're excited about diving in this time around?
I'm definitely excited to like talk about the evolution of like the story as we go along, because we
Hmm.
have a I don't know if it's an isekai like technically, but it's a definitely a fish out of water story with Titus
Yeah.
being drawn to the world, and we learn about it as he learns about it basically. And then now that we know what's up, we can pick up on things that might be foreshadowed that are big reveals later on. And I'm
Hmm.
excited to just like pay close attention to those and just take in those moments as we go, because there's a ton of thematic material in Final Fantasy X, and it is one of those games that like you could play this for the first time and just kind of go along for the ride, enjoy the big moments and the big reveals, and those are still really strong. But I think that there's a lot of like understated thematic like greatness in the story of FF10 that if you're not going into it with it in mind, it might pass you by. And I think it's like
Hmm.
really well done stuff. So um I think like the biggest thing for me along those lines, if we want to just like give some people some things to be on the lookout for,
Yeah.
number one, I think that um, Sin is this kaiju basically that destroys, and we have this cycle of destruction with Sin that we learn about fairly early on. Sin shows up within the first 10 minutes of the game, and
Hmm.
so Sin shows up and destroys, and the people who live in this world are just they're constantly living under the threat of like think of well, you don't have to imagine it. It's like if you had a hurricane that was guaranteed to show up and destroy your city
Hmm.
anytime, but it will happen, and it's going to happen sometime. And the more you make a ruckus about it, the more likely it is that it's going to happen. Stuff like that. So how do people live with that? And
Hmm.
what's their day-to-day like? What do they care about? What are they worried about? You get to talk to people about that. I really recommend when you go to towns, talk to the people in the towns, because you'll hear what they think about these things. I mean, there are some NPCs that do the like, sunny out today type of dialogue, but they it doesn't feel like it's that many of them, especially
Hmm.
after a big moment. Um, People will talk about that moment and how they feel about it. And one of the coolest things to me is that there's a religion that's formed up around sin and the cycle of destruction. And this is a genre that's famous for taking on religion in one way or another, even if it's just
Hmm.
fighting God as the final boss. Final Fantasy X is very much about a religion that is formed up
Yeah.
around this cycle of destruction and how people struggle to make sense of it and how they should live their lives. What's the way out? All of this is related to the religion. So those
Hmm.
are two things at the top that I think are like very, very strong in this game.
Yeah. I think we're going to have some again, we play this game not in a vacuum, but in in the fact and sense that our lives right now, like when you mention, people living under a constant threat of destruction,
Mm-hmm.
just very frankly, we are living in a time where that is a reality for a lot of people in
Yeah.
many parts of the world in many different ways. And so I think, um, going back to replaying something, even though I've replayed it as an adult, where some of those themes have felt more present, I think the theme of that cycle of destruction and sort of what we do in these types of times is just increasingly relevant. I almost knocked over my tea. Increasingly relevant. Um, and sort of what does it mean to try and face those cycles? What do you choose to do about it, both on individual levels, but as a community? I think the highlight on religion, and I think this idea of faith versus organized religion is one that I find really interesting in this game in particular,
Mm-hmm.
because you have characters, one of your main characters who is um, a pinnacle in this organized religion, a prime member and sort of position holder in this. And she has this very unwavering faith. And what happens to that faith over the journey is something that's really important to pay attention to,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the faith of the members in her immediate community with the pilgrimage and her guardians, but also the faith of people around them and how different events, especially when sin is more present, impact the way that people interact with faith or organized religion or both. Because I think there is a distinction that this game starts to outline. Um, and I love the point. I'll let you speak to it, but it's one that I've really connected with. And this theme of expectations and legacy. Could you talk a little bit more about that, Dave? Because that's like
Yeah.
chef's kiss.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far into character stories right now. Next episode, we'll get into it for sure. But
Hmm.
Tidus and Yuna, the two main characters, are both children of very famous, very important people for different reasons. Um, and they carry that baggage in very different ways. Their fathers were both very important, and they had very different relationships with their fathers.
Hmm.
And now they are out on the road on this pilgrimage, and people know who Yuna is because she's the summoner on the pilgrimage, but they know her father more than they know her at that moment. And the same thing with
Hmm.
Tidus. Everyone knows who his father is, and they may have a very different perception of him than he does. And so how do both of those characters deal with that? How do they maybe make peace with what's expected of them? More so in Yuna's case, I think, than Tidus. I don't think anyone really expects anything of Tidus, but Yuna definitely has expectations as a summoner and as her
Hmm.
father's daughter. Um,
Yeah.
so they can connect over this in a way too, because they they both feel that, even if it's not the strongest, like they don't have a ton of conversations about it, but they do talk about it sometimes, and that it's something that's on their mind. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Tidus and Yuna are very different characters as far as their personalities and what they choose to share and stuff like that. It's actually maybe a little bit of a role reversal from something you might expect. Yuna's the more stoic, centered, focused one. Tidus is kind of a
Mm-hmm.
mess. So to put it lightly, yeah, very interesting dynamic. And they are as equal main characters as I think you can get. I mean, you see it through Tidus's eyes, but Yuna is arguably more important for the story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's as much her story as it is his story, which Final Fantasy's done this before. Final Fantasy VI famously doesn't really have a main character. Some are more important than others, but 10 is like, we have
Mm-hmm.
these two right at the center of everything. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, their backgrounds are really interesting in the way they explore all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say, to add on to that, I think we'll be spending a lot of time focusing on Tidus and Yuna for, relatively obvious reasons, as the
Hmm.
story really circles around them. But um, I'm excited to also delve into a lot of these side stories and side plots that happen with characters. One of my favorite elements about Final Fantasy as a series is even when they have games with protagonists, usually they have an ensemble cast that is really rich and that you can still find a lot of connections with. Orin, Lulu, Waka, Riku, Kimari, like they all have the interesting personalities, but also additional topics that we have not mentioned here, additional sort of threads that we're going to chase in terms of their character development that I'm also very excited. And so as you're playing, you're definitely going to be focusing on Yuna and Tidus, but also make sure you're paying attention to these other characters, what they're going through, and maybe how it reflects additional layers to those main themes that we've already mentioned.
Yeah. Some of the party cast is more interesting to me than others.
Mm-hmm.
But they are all interesting. And we're going to talk a lot about Waka, I feel like, as we go through.
Yeah.
um, Waka's a bit of a lightning rod of a character, but
Yeah.
they are all interesting in their own ways. And all the ways that they're interesting intersect with the ways that the world building works with the religion and with people's faith
Mm-hmm.
and different approaches to how do we handle sin, what should we be doing right now. It all intersects.
Mm-hmm.
It gets condensed down when you talk about party dynamics and things like that,
Yeah.
in a way that everything feels like it feeds into everything else in a cool way.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm already thinking about because again, we're in a time right now, just in terms of for folks listening based in the US, US politics, what do we do about Trump essentially? Like, what are the methods that we take? What are the tools that we utilize to change the path that our country is on? And it's so fascinating to me playing this and thinking about playing this right now when we have in Final Fantasy X different factions that are all trying to get rid of sin, um, and the different ways they go about it and how their end goal is the same, but the journeys that they're taking to get there are very different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, just very interesting time to play this game right now, I would say.
It's kind of
And
an
apply a
evergreen
lot of that.
story in that way,
It
right?
really is. Yeah. Um, I wanted to also highlight one more sort of technical aspect before we wind down with the last few notes. We Go Giant in Discord provided a great tip for folks who are playing on PC, particularly Steam, I'm assuming. I guess there are a number of bugs, and this is me reading We Go Giant's summary. So thank you, Giant, for that. There are a number of bugs that can cause the game to soft lock when certain animations play or hard crash in some cases, as well as break the FMV pre-rendered cutscenes so they only show a solid green screen the entire time. Uh, oh no. As I understand it, this is Giant, this happens because the game is coded to only allocate a max of 2 GB of your system's available RAM. It's a port of a PlayStation game, so 2 gigs should be more than enough, but the way memory is written and cleared works differently on PC when compared to console, which is why the bugs happen. So there is a patch that I will link in the newsletter that Giant shared from the speedrunning community that allows the game to access up to 4 gigabytes of RAM, which will prevent the issues from showing up. So I will link that in the newsletter that's going out the same day that this podcast is going out. It will also be in the newsletter archive on the website. But thank you, Giant, for shouting that out, because as someone who's never played it on PC, and I won't be playing it on PC, this is not something I've experienced or have experience fixing. So for anyone playing on PC, that's just a note that I wanted to make sure and more publicly shout out. So you don't have a frustrating experience, hopefully.
Yeah, nothing worse than computer problems when you're trying to just play a game. I mean, I love PC gaming, but there is something nice about just popping it into your console and playing it, you know.
Yeah, it's weird. And again, this is like, I call my PlayStation my Final Fantasy machine, because really it's like that's where I go for these types of experiences, because I don't want any problems. And like if you're on PlayStation, at least from my experience, that's like the least amount of bugs, issues. It runs the best. You know, it's just nice.
From my experience, I've played the remaster twice, maybe 3 times on Switch. It works perfectly on Switch. That was Switch 1.
Oh, that's great.
Even. So if anyone's thinking about playing there, it works just great there too.
Heck yeah. And I also wanted to encourage folks, you've all also been amazing already. Folks are in the Discord talking about blitzball strategies, our favorite scenes that they've encountered, all of the great stuff. So if you haven't already hopped into the Discord, please consider going in. That's where the majority of like the day-to-day conversation of this game is happening. Of course, if you're not into Discord, that's a-okay. I would love to encourage you to write in with your questions, thoughts, comments on the first half of the game. So we'll be playing up until, and I'll link a guide in the newsletter as well. So if you want a guide to have like a easier stop point, the first time you hit the Thunder Plains, they will name it. It's a very obvious moment. But when you hit the Thunder, it's very, very obvious. When you hit the Thunder Plains, that's where we'll put a bookmark for our conversation for the next podcast. But honestly, this is the kind of game, if you're in it, just keep playing, just keep going, because we're playing this for the next 2 months, and there is enough content there that if you are really into it, it will definitely take you that 2 months. So I don't want to force you to stop if you're really, really excited about being in it. Let me see. In the newsletter, I just wanted to shout out, and we'll probably discuss these more in depth because we'll have context for these next time. But I'm going to be linking an article that Dave shared in terms of the context for the famous laughing scene that we'll be talking about. And if you don't know what the laughing scene is, you are going to be in for a treat. So we've got a little bit of sort of behind the scenes on how that happened, sort of context, and we got a TED Talk, I think, on the way from Dave on that laughing scene. I'm so excited.
Getting my PowerPoint ready.
Yes. We've got a link to the soundtrack, which, thank you, Internet Archive, you can download from the Internet Archive the full Final Fantasy X soundtrack. It is probably one of the best soundtracks, I think, in Final Fantasy. It's definitely in the top 3.
Love it.
Get it. It's so good.
Especially that song that plays during the opening Blitzball match, the one that's like the Uematsu's weird heavy metal affection coming through.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, I was like, what the heck is this? And it has like, honestly, I'm like, this is the weirdest, best thing. Like, God, I love it so much.
It's an awful song, but I like it because it's Final Fantasy X.
It works. Like, if you have the scene in your head and you're like, if you can see it in your head, it makes the song like, I'm like, I roll with it. I think this is okay. I'm cool with it.
We'll revisit this a few times throughout the series for sure.
But definitely, if you listen to nothing else, if you download nothing else, the To Zanarkand piano theme, which is track number 2 on the soundtrack, I think is at this point as iconic as the main Final Fantasy theme. It is up there as probably one of the most iconic Final Fantasy songs, just hands down. I also played it at a piano recital when I was in high school. I was that into Final Fantasy.
Love it. I mean, if there's any Final Fantasy song to do at a piano recital, that's the one.
Yeah, it's so good. And then the last things I'll link are the concepts from the 17 version of Final Fantasy X, back when it was about kids dying at 17, and the challenges of localization and VO implementation in this game. I will say I checked earlier today, and the link, they were having a 503 service temporarily unavailable issue with the website. At the very least, I have a gamedeveloper.com link that will take you to a general summary of what they talked about, but I'm going to be trying my best to find the original source if I can. So, yeah.
Yeah. Alexander O. Smith was the or one of the localizers, but they've done lots and lots of interviews throughout the years about their work at Square at the time. And just it's endlessly interesting, the voice acting and localization for 10 in particular, because it was the first one where they're doing it, and they it feels like it was an afterthought, kind of, in some ways.
A lot of lessons, I feel like, hard earned and hard learned lessons.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, I think, is there anything else you wanted to share to prime people to play?
I guess my only tip, and I shared this in Discord, but do not overthink the sphere grid. Just follow the path they give you. It looks big and intimidating if you've never seen it before. It looks like the world's most insane skill tree. It's not that. It's a linear progression. Just follow it. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is genuinely one of the most satisfying systems, I think, because if you're a type A, you love to check off the box, on your to-do list kind of person, save up as many points as possible and then just go ding, 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 and down the sphere grid line, and it'll feel so good. Yeah. Just, one of my favorites.
If you like to check boxes, good news. There are hundreds of boxes to check on that sphere grid.
Yeah, boxes and spheres. Yeah, exactly. There's a ton for you to do. Yeah. Oh, I cannot wait. All right. Well, this is closing time. We are finishing up now. So next episode, which will launch on November 18th, we will be back, Dave, as well as myself, to kick off the first part of our conversation about Final Fantasy X. Again, we're playing until the party reaches the Thunder Plains. And that's where we'll bookmark the end of our spoiler conversation on the 18th. As always, if you've got comments, questions, anything you want to share about your experience with the game, be sure to put it in Discord. If you'd like it to be shared on the podcast, feel free to email to me directly, jenny@geeksandgrounds.com. And hopefully we'll be able to get your voice on the podcast. It's always nice. I love getting questions from folks. We get more questions, I think, than sort of comments or just sort of singular reflections. So if you have just a thought, like you liked something, feel free to share that as well. You don't have to ask a question. Any reflections are welcome. And yeah, Dave, remind us where we can find you if you're not here hanging out with us at Geeks and Grounds.
Right. Well, first of all, you can find me in the Final Fantasy X channel in the Geeks and Grounds Discord. I'll be there chatting about the game. But if you want to find my show, it is called Tales from the Backlog. Again, it is a weekly show, different game each week, different guest each week. And November's got some cool stuff coming up. An episode about Pseudo Regalia at the beginning, a cool indie game, and then complete opposite end of the spectrum, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet episode. I talked about Pokemon almost 2 hours ago now. Big deep dive, almost 3 hour long episode into those games. And that's with former Geeks and Grounds guests, Kate and Emily from No Small Games, if you remember them. So,
oh my gosh, we love them.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
So
that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, they're great. Always a joy to chat with them. But yeah, that's Tales from the Backlog. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube. And can't wait till next episode.
Awesome. So everyone, train your breath holding skills. We're going to be playing Blitzball next week. It's going to be very exciting. So get ready to hold your breath while we do some aquatic sports, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.